Joe Biden officially accepted his party's nomination for president, closing out the fourth and final day of the Democratic National Convention. And joining us live this morning via Skype is Dr. Lee Hanna, professor at Wright State University. We have a breakdown of the final night of the convention. Obviously, the big moment last night was when Joe Biden made his acceptance speech. But what do you think were some of the bigger moments in his speech itself?
The Biden and the night really set him up for this, but in so many ways they were trying to show him, and through his own story and his own biography, as someone who understands grief, has lived through it himself, has struggled with losing family members and these tragic accidents, as well as overcoming a stutter, and he essentially was trying to tell the American people, like, I will be an empathetic leader. Like, we're in a very dark time with the amount of death and job loss to this pandemic, and I will fill that void as somebody who will lead us through with empathy, someone who will lead us through who's actually experienced some of these tragedies personally.
Why do you think the Democratic Party took that approach when it came to, I guess, shedding light on all of those tragedies and incidents in the presidential nominee now, Joe Biden's life?
Yeah, I think if we went back to kind of the pre-COVID battle in the Democratic Party, Joe Biden's main argument was that he was more electable than some of the other candidates. And now that we've been through this pandemic, we've seen the economy just completely change in the past 7 or 8 months. It seems like at least Biden and the Democratic Party's theory is to say that we are trying to persuade those individuals who are maybe dissatisfied with where things are, that we're here for them, right? And so it might have been a different approach if the economy were like it were in January and we weren't dealing with this pandemic, where it would be a more hard-hitting attack on Trump. And certainly they didn't hold back, but it wasn't. I think last night's was more of a somber tone in the build-up to. I think that was intentional. Try to be as empathetic as possible.
Now, what do you expect? Do you think that there will be a little bit of a different tone when it comes to next week in the Republican National Convention? I mean, what do you expect that to sort of feel like?
Yeah, so I'm interested in two things. So one is just the logistics. The Democrats have been planning a virtual convention much longer than the Republicans, so they're kind of playing catch up. They have the advantage of learning from what did and did not work as they watched every night of the DNC, and they'll certainly try to replicate some of those aspects. At the same time, I think we are going to see a convention that essentially says that Joe Biden is a Trojan horse for this far left agenda. And so Biden, in many ways this week, tried to say, hey, look at these Republicans against Trump. Look at these leaders of faith who are against Trump. But certainly I think next week the Republican Party is going to say that's a mirage for a leftist agenda that's coming in a Biden-Harris administration.
All right, Dr. Lee Hanna, thank you so much for joining us all week long. We're going to see you next week, and we're going to be breaking down the Republican National Convention. So thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.